Sure, sure.
Hi, it's Steve Hargadon, and welcome to the, I think we're on our 5th keynote of the first day of the Global STEM Education Conference. We're so glad that you're here. Chor Huat is our special guest. Welcome.
Hi, welcome.
I didn't do a good job with the name. So thanks so much to our conference sponsors. We really appreciate the support that allows this conference to be free. And we're going to let you now indicate where you're participating from. Look to the left of the map. You're looking for the sun or star icon. Click on that and then click on the map. And let us know in the chat, maybe more specifically, where you're located, the time and the temperature. No surprise to see Singapore on the map.
Sure.
You can keep indicating on the map, not on the map, sorry, in the chat where you're located. I'm going to move our slides forward and turn it over to you. Thank you so much.
Sure. Sure. Hi. Good day to everyone here, ladies and gentlemen. It's bright and sunny over here in Singapore, and I certainly want to thank everyone for taking your time to join our discussions here at this particular webinar. I'm actually Chor Huat. I'm actually the principal of the School of Science and Technology Singapore, or we refer to as SST in short. And first and foremost, I would like to thank the organizers for giving us this opportunity to connect with fellow educators from around the world. And actually, we are very glad to have this opportunity to discuss how actually we put in place an ecosystems to facilitate engaged teaching and learning over at SST. And for some of you who might be very new to what SST is doing, we are actually strong advocates of applied learning. And this is a concept that I would probably dwell on and explain a little bit more going forward. Essentially, applied learning really allows us to put a lot more emphasis on integrating real-world applications into our student quest for knowledge. So in the context of this particular conference, I would like to focus on specific examples in the study of science concepts. And I'm also very happy to have my colleagues with me, Mr. Tan Ho-Teck, as well as their students, to be here with us. And I think they'll be more than happy to answer some of the questions that you might have later on. And certainly as we go along, we welcome your views and sharing of your own experiences. I think for the benefits of our participants here, I think it's good for me to start off by giving you a very brief introduction to the Singapore education system. I think Singapore education system is highly regarded as well as fairly well respected throughout the world. Largely, I think, is due to our very strong performance at major so-called international comparative studies, such as TEAMS, PISAs, and I think we have attracted a lot of attentions among the world educators, and there are a lot of people who come by Singapore to visit the different schools to discuss our education practices at the Ministry of Education, and I think SST also play certainly a very important role in that regard. And I think the education systems of Singapore has actually been very broadly diversified over the course of the last 15 years. And our essential belief really is to provide diverse pathway to our youth, because we understand that our youth really have different needs, different talents, and different abilities. And we are recognizing the importance of making sure that we have relevant educational experience that could be customized without compromising in terms of educational standards within the available resources that we can provide to cater to every single child. And as we all know, Singapore is actually a very small country with no natural resources, and the human resource is our only resource that we need to develop and need to continue to groom to help us to strengthen our competitive edge, our competitive economy in the global market. So in terms of the age group, we have actually provided a QR code on the slides, and that would actually provide our audience with the relevant web contact that you can actually find a little bit more about the whole entire Singapore education system. But just to give you an idea about what SST is all about, we basically cater to the learning needs of the secondary school segment, and this is typically equivalent to grade 7 to 10 if we are talking about in the US context, a little bit like your middle schools. Basically, we offer a 4-year program, and the students entering these schools will be in the age range of age 13 to 16. Prior to coming to SST, they would have spent a good 6 years in an elementary schools, or down here we commonly refer to as the primary schools. And at the end of the primary schools systems, they do sit for a national examination. It's a common national examination that all our elementary school students will need to sit. And after finishing their secondary school educations, our students will actually move on to what the United States would probably refer to as a senior high. There's just another 2 more years of, we call it the senior high, or we call it the pre-university courses, and then they'll move on to the university. There will be other groups of students who might move on to more specialized vocational training, more specialized technology, engineering-related training over at a polytechnic or institute of technical education. But essentially, the different pathway would lead students to whichever directions they want to take, and some might actually move on to universities, and some might even move on to universities that takes on a more practical band or practical applications. And really, I think in this country, we seriously are very committed to providing every child the necessary educational experience as well as pathways that will suit them as they progress along. Now let's come to more specific about what SST is all about. SST offer a 4-year program, as I mentioned earlier on, catering to students of age 13 to 16. And at the end of the 4 years, they do need to sit for another national examination, which is commonly referred to as the GCE Cambridge O-Level examination. And on the slides, you will notice that SST is actually known as a specialized independent schools. The concept of independent schools may be a little bit different here as compared to what is commonly referred to probably in the Western countries. We are not a private schools. We are basically still publicly funded, and it's a very interesting. I understand that there's some feedback coming in that the voice part of it is not very clear, the audio is not very clear. We shall be doing a swap over.
We're getting the same problem, yes.
Okay. Is it better now? Okay, I
think
unfortunately
it's not.
Microphone again. Okay, we're going to do a switch on the microphone now. Just hang in there. Okay,
yes, much better.
Let's just continue from where I last stopped. As I mentioned, the word independent schools does not mean that we are private schools. Actually, down here in this country, all the independent schools are actually publicly funded schools. The word independence just means that the Ministry of Education are giving us a lot more autonomy in managing our own affairs, in managing our own so-called corporate structures, as well as the offering of our curriculum. So in a way, it's a great innovation in this country whereby we are allowing some of the public schools to be able to innovate, to be able to create new programs, new activities that will suit the talents and abilities of our students. So down here, of course, you see the word specialized in front. The word specialized means that the Ministry of Education wanted us to focus on a certain key areas of development of the students. And obviously, for the case of SST, we are very focused on developing students' talents and ability in the area of science and technology. So one of the other key features about these schools is that we are on a one-to-one learning program. And essentially, one-to-one learning program refers to 1 student to 1 laptop. And the students are primarily, they're using the MacBook as their main learning device in the classrooms. And we do very extensive so-called teaching and learning program and activities through the technology platform. And certainly, I don't think we just do it for the sake of doing it. I think it's always a meaningful as well as a judicial use of technology to complement as well as supplement the relevant teaching pedagogies that we advocate within the classrooms. And we are also very fortunate. To be part of the Future Schools at Singapore. And this is a great initiative by this country again, whereby we have 8 schools that are specially selected and are given research grant to look into how technology can enhance the whole teaching and learning process. And we are very fortunate to be given quite a sizable amount of resources to help us to do research into new technology platforms, as well as how teaching strategies as well as the technology could be well integrated to deliver a quality teaching and learning experience in the classrooms and even beyond the classrooms. And I think the other unique features of these schools is that we have a small class size. Of course, this small class size has to be seen in the context of Singapore. In Singapore, most of the conventional schools, the class size would be ranging around 35 to 40 students in one class. But in these schools, we are very fortunate. Our class size is on average only about 23. So this allowed a lot more opportunity for the students to share, present their ideas, to communicate, to interact and work in groups, and to be able to engage teachers in very meaningful discussions, as well as meaningful so-called collaborations on many different areas. Let me talk a little bit about the learning outcomes of our students. I think as with all schools, I think across the world, every one of us here has very high goals and aspirations for the students under our care. And I think this important development of the 21st century competencies is something that's very prevalent across different school systems. And on the slides, you'll be able to see that in FSD, we have actually condensed this, and we actually summarize this as call it the 10 C's. Right below, we call it the commitments, the confidence, the courage, the collaborations, communication, cross-cultural sensitivity, citizenships, etc., etc. So we take a very, very total approach towards the planning of our curriculum, and within the curriculum structures, as well as within classrooms, beyond classrooms, co-curricular activities, our school's activities, we make sure that we incorporate critical elements of this competencies development within the lesson activities, within the students' program, so that we develop it fairly consciously for students to acquire such competencies, which we think that it will be helpful to the students as they move on to the more competitive workplace in the future. And I have earlier on mentioned a little bit about this applied learning, and in essence, the applied learning as far as SSC is concerned refers to something as connecting the dots between the academic concepts and real-world contexts for enduring understandings. And we are not, in a way, saying that applied learning is just purely hands-on learning, because that typically is the very layman way of interpretations. Hands-on learning is only a small facets of applied learning. As far as we are concerned, I think the applied learning has to be taken at a higher level, has to be taken into the cognitive domain, allowing the students to integrate the hands and the mind, and to be able to tackle real-world challenges, real-world problems, and to be able to integrate the many different disciplines of skills and knowledge coming together. And to allow us to do that, besides having the conventional subjects being taught in the regular curriculum, we integrate many other different experiences within the school timetable, where every student would have the opportunity to go through that. And on the slides, you'll be able to see there's this thing called information and communication technology, innovation and entrepreneurship, interdisciplinary research studies. And in particular, for example, innovation and entrepreneurship is really a very conscious program that we actually put within the regular timetable. And the whole idea is to develop a critical eye to look for opportunities. And we really want students to be more innovative and more entrepreneurial in their outlook, in their mindsets. I think down here we are talking a lot more about developing the entrepreneurial mindsets than to just make them to become small-time businessmen or businesswomen, or to set up so-called mom and pop shops, and that's not really the main focus. And I think the whole idea is we want to cultivate that kind of mindsets, that kind of so-called ability to see problems not as problems, but problems as opportunities for growth, opportunities for change, opportunities for them to make something better, to come up with better services or products that will actually serve the larger community. And through this, we find that that's the way that we harness the skills and the ability, the competency to our students beyond just learning the academic concepts. So this morning, I'm very happy to, among the many different things that we do in SST, I'm very happy to just focus a little bit more on the science curriculum in SST. And I think whatever you see that we do here in SST is not quite a typical science curriculum that you will see in the conventional secondary schools in Singapore. So this is something that we are very proud. In a way, it's developed in-house, and certainly over the last couple of years, we have made some fine-tuning and adjustments to it. And I think one of the very unique features of this science curriculum that we have is this investigative skills in science. And for colleagues who are not familiar with our term structures, every term that we talk about is a 10 weeks of academic learning. And I think at this juncture, it will be an opportunity for me to hand over to my colleagues, who is a very passionate science educator, Mr. Tan Ho Teck, to give our audience a little bit more understanding about what do we do within SST in terms of science curriculum, our approach, as well as what students really go through in terms of the investigative skills in science. So I hand over the time now to Mr. Tan Ho Teck.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. Chua. My name is Ho Teck, a teacher for the ISS program, and I'll be sharing on how this program is being implemented in SST. I'll also take this opportunity to share some of the projects. Over here in SST, there's a strong emphasis on helping students develop the skills and the attitudes of being a scientist and an engineer. We are guided by the applied learning approach in designing the curriculum. A typical SST lower secondary science curriculum includes the modules highlighted here. And the foundations laid in the students' first 1.5 years are consolidated through the investigative skills in science module known as ISS, okay, which is highlighted in red in this picture. Now, there's also an extensive literature on understanding by design framework developed by McPeake and Wiggin. I shall not elaborate on this, but under this framework, the ISS module can be considered a capstone task for the lower secondary science curriculum, where students complete their learning experiences through a science research project. Mr. Chua had discussed the modules on IRS, ICT, and INE earlier on. In the ISS program, the students draw on these component skills to demonstrate their proficiency in a topic in science research. As you may infer, the 21st century competencies, or the 10 C's that we affectionately call them, factor strongly in the implementation of these projects as well as in our assessment. Now, to give you an overview, okay, this diagram sums up the key components of the ISS module. This is a 10-week program in which students identify a research topic of their interest, submit a proposal, and go through the research process of data collection, experimentation, analysis before presenting their findings. Where relevant, such projects are sometimes submitted as entries to science or engineering competitions. Besides pitting their work against the peers from other institutions, they also get to network with friends who share a common passion for science and technology beyond the classroom. Now on the next page, you can see how the project stages and the supporting ICT platforms are being implemented. In this table, you will see the chronological stages of the research project and the corresponding ICT platforms applied to support the implementation. So for example, in the experimentation stage, students will be using data loggers. In the research communication stage, the students would be using their iMovies to produce a video clip of their projects. Now let us turn to the next page on how assessment is done for the ISS module. There are basically two stages of assessment which we have carried out this year. The research project itself and an assessment of the component skills, where students can take an assessment of their learning so far. Each research project group consists of 3 to 4 members, and they work together as a team to produce a project of their choice. Now let us look at a couple of these projects, okay, starting with the Aquaponics project that I'm going to present. In project 1, as you can see from the picture indicated, the students study how aquaponics can be the answer to developing a sustainable food production system. Applying concepts from biology, chemistry, and physics, the students attempted to combine conventional aquaculture with hydroponics in a symbiotic environment. Their objective is to take a shot at tackling food supply issues in the world, where space-consuming agriculture and aquaculture have to be moved away from urban centers. This results in high costs due to the need for transport and storage. In conventional fish farms, ammonia secretions from fishes are being accumulated in water, increasing its toxicity. In an aquaponics system, however, water from an aquaculture system is being fed to a hydroponic system, where the byproducts are being used by the hydroponics system. The byproducts are created when nitrogen-fixing bacteria converts the ammonia into nitrates and nitrites. And in this way, the water is being recirculated back to the aquaculture system continuously. In this system of aquaculture that the students have devised, they effectively integrated concepts from the 3 main sciences to solve a problem that exists in the real world, although in a small scale. The key features are as follows. Number 1, the establishment of a symbiotic relationship between the fishes and the lettuce plants. Number 2, the bacterial conversion of ammonia to nitrates and nitrites using a filter system. And number 3, developing of a bell siphon system that allows the nitrate and nitrites uptake of plants by holding it in the holding tank. Through exposing the students to the process of uncovering concepts, getting to the root of issues, we hope that they will come to a more enduring understanding of the subjects. Ideally, we should have also ignited their passion for science and engineering. There is a video link of the students' presentation as well as their research blog, as indicated in this page. You can go to the QR code or the web page link to have access to their research materials. Okay, now I will go through project number 2. Okay, a solar powered house with an automated control system. This example highlights how students can apply concepts from physics in an attempt to understand and explore solutions to energy issues in the household. This project shows an automated house that will regulate its own lighting and temperatures based on the current environmental conditions surrounding the house. The students adopted the Arduino to manage the setup. The Arduino is a single board microcomputer that leverages electronics to make multidisciplinary projects more accessible through a way of sensing and controlling the outputs. These Arduino boards can be purchased pre-assembled as a do-it-yourself kit from most hardware stores or electronics stores. As you can see from here, the circuit diagram that the students have came up with, okay, is used to illustrate the thinking process behind this project. There are basically 4 important design components in this circuit. The first is the solar energy harvesting system. If you look at the bottom half of the diagram, you can see the solar panel connected to the regulator and battery. The second system would be the sensor systems, where the Arduino would sense the environmental conditions. The third system is the thinking process, okay, as developed through the programming codes in the Arduino device. And the fourth system will be the output system, where based on the decision making that the students have made in the program codes, the fans, the lights, and the automated systems will then control the external environment. For a detailed description of how this system works, do follow the link or the QR code provided to view the students' blog. Through applying the concepts of science and engineering, we hope that the students can learn or even develop ways for future energy harvesting and sensible energy use in the household. Now, my personal reflections are as follows. As an educator, I find that the ISS program provides students with an opportunity to apply their learning to the real world, as shown by this aquaponics and solar energy house. Furthermore, the extensive use of ICT facilitates the efficient execution of the different stages of the research project. In this way, the students actually take on the roles of young scientists and engineers with ease, be it in researching the project itself and in communicating the ideas with others. Let us turn to the next page. This is where you can have access to the other learning activities in our school. Okay. On this microsite, there will be a lot of materials on the students' activities. Now I will pass the mic back to Mr. Chua.
I think fine-tuning and evolving the system is part and parcel of tailoring a learning experience that's relevant for the students as well as educators alike. And I think we do speak to our students on a very regular basis under different contexts and different settings, trying to get the so-called feedback from the students to see how we can make teaching and learning relevant to them, how we can make learning more engaging, more experiential, as well as more fun for them. And I think this is really through the last couple of years in terms of the kind of feedback and inputs that we're gathering from both students and teachers, that we actually continuously fine-tune and refine our programs offering, and so that we make the learning experience relevant as well as meaningful. And I think on the slides you can actually see some of the feedback, so-called some of the written feedback provided by the students. And certainly this morning we're also very happy to have 3 of our students here, and later on there will be opportunity for our participants to post in some questions if need to find out a little bit more about what is their experience so far. And I think we do have some time for Q&A here, and we'll try our level best to address your questions. For those that we're not able to cover in this sessions, please feel free to connect with us and keep in touch. And we have actually indicated our websites as well as our Facebook link there. And I've come to the end of our keynote and hope that this has been a fruitful session for everyone here. And we certainly can answer some of the questions if there's any that's coming along.
So if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat. I'm sorry I stepped away for just a second, and so I'm wanting to make sure. Jim, did your question get answered? Okay, so Jim's question was, are the regular schools in Singapore beginning to adopt this approach to STEM education?
Yes, certainly I think the regular schools in Singapore are also progressively trying to find ways and means to innovate based on their existing so-called resources as well as existing practices. And I would say that SST is very fortunate to be able to lead the way, and we have been sharing our experiences quite extensively with the local schools, with the local educators, and there are adoptions of our so-called bits and pieces of what we are trying to do here, and I think it serves as a source of so-called inspiration as well as point a way forward for some of our regular schools to do that. Because we know that every school actually has a very unique context as well as they have a very unique group of students that they're working with, so the adoptions as well as the practices would have to be customized as well as modified to suit their own student profile. And we're very happy that as a country, STEM education is certainly an important area that we focus on because it's only through scientific innovations, through engineering breakthrough that we can actually keep our economy going. And STEM education is something that this country is certainly very heavily focused on as well as invest quite a bit of resources into. How do you train teachers to teach this way? I would say that number one, I'm very fortunate to be able to recruit every single teachers. So through the interview process, I would try on my level best to ascertain that teachers are coming here with the right mindsets, with the openness to learn, and I think most important is the openness to unlearn and relearn new ways of engaging students, a new way of inspiring students to be so-called self-directed learners. And I think through that whole hiring process, we already, in a way, be very fortunate to bring colleagues who are committed to the missions of the schools. And I think through that process, we work with Institute of Higher Learning, whether in the Polytechnic, in the universities, and likewise with some of our industry partners, to bring some relevant professional development training to our teachers and to expose them to the many different ways of how we can further fine-tune or refine our teaching strategies. And I would say that on a regular basis, there's a lot of peer sharing, as well as I think we build up community of practice, community of learners that comes together, whereby they support one another to share their ideas, whether is it at a department level or even cross-departmental level. And we find that those sharing and learning is very helpful and very meaningful, because that is something that teachers understand and they can actually put it into practice almost instantaneously. And once they have done that several times around, it becomes a new habit, a new acquired tool, skills and tools for them to deploy. And after a while, it becomes a habit, it not become a chore to them, and they will be able to do a lot more. And I think it's through the enthusiasm that they support one another and also inspire one another and actually spur each other's on to look for new ways and new approaches to engage the students. Do students apply to go to your schools, or how are they chosen? Yeah, every single one of them actually applied to come to these schools. Certainly it's a very competitive entry process. These schools we select, in a way we admit students from across the whole country. So anyone can actually apply to these schools. And typically within a year, we probably have about ranging from about 1,003 to 1,005 applicants, and we finally selected only 200 students. So you have about 1 in 7 chance of getting a place in the School of Science and Technology. And I think the whole idea of the whole selection process is not so much about picking up the best. The whole idea is to picking up students who could benefit from this form of learning. So it's more the suitability as well as their interests and passions in the area of science and technology that we're looking out for. Let me move on to the next question. Are there cross-cultural connections made to humanity classes? This is one of the very typical as well as regular questions that we get. Doesn't mean that when you're in the School of Science and Technology, you disregard languages, you disregard humanities. The students do have a fairly broad-based education, and they do have good exposure to language acquisitions, to geography, history, social studies, etc. And we do have some of these examples on our microsites, and for interested participants, feel free to go in and take a look. For example, we're very proud of this mobile learning trail that could be found on our microsites, and the mobile learning trail focus primarily on humanities. And it's a very good teaching strategy where we integrate technology together with humanities, and we bring the students really out of the classrooms to learn so-called in a more real-world context. How much time do teachers have for professional development? I would say in general, even in Singapore, our teachers are very fortunate. They have very extensive professional development opportunities, and I would say in SST that is even greatly enhanced. And certainly within the scheme of things, teachers have a lot of opportunities to be professionally developed, whether in schools or beyond schools, sent for conferences, to attend workshops, whether it's organized by the schools or organized by the Ministry of Education. Actually, this morning I would very much prefer that there will be questions that our participants would like to pose to my students, because I have 3 young ladies and gentlemen sitting down here eagerly waiting to answer any questions that you might have. And I think it's always good to speak to the young people to hear it so-called from the horse's mouth, what has been their experience so far. Or any of our students want to maybe just share a little bit more about how is your experience so far in doing this project?
There's a good question in the chat from Jim asking maybe a student could reply to why they selected to come to this school.
Yes, sure. Yeah, I think one of our students can reply to that question. Why did you select to come to these schools?
Thank you, Mr. Chua. Hi, I'm Rin Hei, and I'm in secondary 2. I chose to come to this school because I find that science is one of my favorite subjects, and this school uses a different approach to teach, which makes use of a MacBook to teach, which is one-to-one learning experience, and this is very different from regular normal schools. This school also uses technology to teach students, when we can use like Pages document for our textbooks, and we can also modify them and to suit them how we want it to. We can also include videos and photos that we research on and place it in the Pages document as well. Thank you.
Maybe the other 2 students might want to jump in and just maybe also state why do you select to come to these schools?
Thank you, Mr. Chua. I'm Xiao Tao, and I'm also in Sec 2 with the same class as the other students. And I feel that the science is one of my favorite subjects, as well as technology. And especially when in this school, you use technology a lot to help yourself in learning. For example, we use Google Drive to share documents with each other and collaborate to work on different projects. I also like the way we do science research in this school, and as it allows us to choose science experiments or projects of our interest, and we are able to do them independently with some help from teachers, of course. Thank you.
Maybe the third students may want to respond to the questions about how much time do you spend in classes each day, and how much time do you spend on schoolwork outside of the regular class.
Okay, hello. I'm Sarah Chan, and I'm from Sec 2, and I'm from the same class as the other students. Regarding the question about how much time I spend in classes each day and the time I spend on schoolwork, for each class it's 50 minutes, and we have on different days we have different classes and they end at different times. So regarding how much time we spend on schoolwork, it differs, as sometimes we have projects, we have performance tasks which require us to do it outside of school. Sometimes we also have to do projects which requires us to come back to school to work on it. Thank you.
Any of our students want to answer the last questions? There's these questions about what do you think is the greatest advantage of having an education focusing on such intensity on STEM, as well as what other authentic projects have you participated and what have you learned?
Thank you, Mr. Chua. Hi, I'm Lin Hui. So, I feel that the greatest advantage is that we can share our experiences through this online platform, and it is a very convenient way, as we do not have to travel here and there, and using technology, which is very advanced now, is very fast to communicate with one another. Some of the projects that I did is ISS, which is the Aquaponics Project, and I feel that it's really fun as we got a hands-on approach, as we can adopt the science knowledge and concepts learned in normal science lessons and apply it into our experiments. And throughout the experiments, certain problems will arise, and this is what you can't learn in normal science lessons. So basically, through ISS, we get to learn more and understand the concepts even better. Thank you.
I guess that maybe to just add on to what the students have just mentioned, I think the general students in Singapore are very focused on math and science. And I would say that for students who are very keen in those areas, they would like to come to a specialized independent schools. And currently in this country, there are two such specialized independent schools that focus a lot more on math and science. School of Science and Technology is one of them. The other one is NUS High Schools of Mathematics and Science. And generally, because there's a lot of opportunities in the scientific field, students who are coming into these two schools will certainly have a much, I would say, brighter future. If let's say they are very interested to pursue a career in the scientific, in the engineering area. So I think some of the students really chose this particular pathway, partly also because of encouragements coming from their parents, as well as probably some forward planning of the parents in so-called encouraging their kids to take up career in this kind of industries. Currently, the students actually will be finishing their 4-year program with us. So by the time they finish the 4-year program, they're age 16. They will still need to continue with their education. And as I mentioned earlier on, they could actually move on to do a pre-university studies, which is another 2 more years in a place where we call junior college. Or they could be doing a 3-year polytechnic diploma. And with those qualifications, then they will move on to the universities. As far as our students are concerned, essentially they do come in with very strong academic credentials. I think in this country they would typically qualify as the top 30% of the cohort, and they are all likely to be going to the universities. Just that they might be going to the universities through different pathway, whether is it going through the 2-year pre-university program or the 3-year polytechnic diploma program. And most of the time, we are seeing the trend whereby students are not so-called fixated on whichever pathway that they want to take, because their ultimate goals is really going into the universities, doing a certain course of studies or professions that they are really very interested and passionate. And I think we are also seeing that because the world is changing so rapidly, there's no one fixed career that one need to be focused on, because over the lifespan of your career planning, you could be switching track. And I think we really want to keep those options open, as well as building so-called some of the basic foundation skills and toolkits for the students, so that they can actually take learning really on a lifelong basis, and to be able to learn, relearn, unlearn, and to be able to acquire new skills, new strategy, new knowledge for whatever new career that they may be moving into. There's a questions about students. Do students live at the schools or do they commute? For the benefit of our audience, really, Singapore is a very small country. From one end to the other end, it takes no more than an hour of travel, even by the public transport. And we do have a fairly efficient public transport systems. So the students don't really stay on campus. We do not have a boarding school facilities. So largely the students commute. I actually have students who come from neighboring country. Because we are situated very near to Malaysia, and at the tip of the Malaysia, there's this state called Johor, or we call it Johor Bahru, and there are students who every day will be crossing the causeway to come into Singapore, and they do come to schools regularly, and they have no issues coming to schools probably via public transport, and it will take them a good probably 1.5 hours to clear the customs, etc., and they make it back and forth on a daily basis. So we don't see that as a major challenge. As far as environmental issues are concerned, I would say that really, as a country, there's already quite a fair bit of emphasis and focus on that. We really want to build a more sustainable way of living, and I think the students here certainly also play a role, and we do have environmental efforts championed by our students in many different ways, trying to be doing recycling projects, working with the communities, etc. Any more other questions that our audience might have?
You can see that one is being composed right now. So I think that question is coming.
Sure.
If anybody wanted to take the microphone to ask a question as well. That was just a thank you note. But
yes. Thanks a lot. Thanks for all the encouragement and support.
We'll make a final call here for a question. You're welcome to put it in the chat, or you can raise your virtual hand and we'll give you the microphone. Jim asks great questions.
Okay. Yes. Do our students do any collaborative projects with students in other parts of the world? Actually, we have a very extensive, what we call it a global citizenship program, where every single grade 7 of my students would have an opportunity to travel overseas. Largely, they travel to countries in the ASEAN region, more in the Southeast Asia or Asia. And we actually have quite a number of partner schools in countries such as Brunei, Vietnam, Thailand, China, Korea, and there are some more upcoming partners that are very interested to work with us in Australia, in Japan, in US. For such global citizenship program, my students do spend probably about a week in the country, and when they're in that country, they would have some collaborative projects with schools within that country. So far, we have been doing more of this kind of face-to-face interactions kind of projects, less so on the virtual platform. But moving forward, I guess with the ease of the technology, we certainly want to look into areas whereby we could actually collaborate with partners in different continents, in different parts of the world, and I think the virtual collaboration is also another very useful platform for students of different culture to understand one another and to so-called have that connections made, have that understanding forged between the different cultures, different contexts, and the different ways of thinking and working.
So a big thanks to you and your students. Really appreciate overcoming the technical hurdles and all being here. What a delight.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I think we'll wrap it up. Thanks, everybody. Hope you're having a great day.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Yeah, same to you too.